Welcome everyone. I see that our YouTube broadcast has just started. Greetings from the TV Brick studio in Moscow, where we start our first ever Friends for Leadership online meetup as a part of a bigger event held tomorrow by the Office of UN 75, UN Envoy on Youth, and UN MGCY. Today we are going to discuss global governance in the digital age with our honorable speakers. And let me briefly introduce our speakers who will spend this broadcast with us today. We will be online for 1 hour, so please stay with us for the whole duration of this broadcast. So we are very pleased and honored to welcome His Excellency Under-Secretary General of the United Nations, Fabrizio Hochschild, who is also a special advisor on the preparations of UN 75, anniversary of establishment of the United Nations this year, and he is a special advisor on digital cooperation. We also have here Teresa Astolfi, a politician from Spain. We have Sharifa from Malaysia, who is a young activist, social entrepreneur. We have Rodrigo from Brazil, who is also a social entrepreneur and founder of Global Attitude. With us also Gerardo Trevino, founder and CEO of Paybook, and he comes from the planet Earth, as he underlines. Halet Yunver from Germany, and he is the board member for European Technology Chamber. And we have also our digital affairs officer, Rishabh Sethi. Hello, guys.
Hello.
It's a huge pleasure that you are with us today. So to make sure that all our friends who are online, and right now we just begin to collect everyone online, we want to see Sharifa. Sharifa, please switch on your cam as we do not see you. And I would like to start our conversation with our honorable guest, Fabrizio Hochschild. Dear Fabrizio, as this situation with COVID-19 has shown that the virus united all of us, and it provided unified norms for everyone to stay safe. Many countries follow the similar measures. How do you see it? Should we anticipate the same for the global governance, especially in the digital sphere? As we drastically change our habits, we go online, we transfer as many work opportunities as we can to do in remote mode as of now. And what is your vision for the global governance in this digital age? Also, please kindly let know our friends online what is UN 75 process and how we all can be part of it. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you for this great initiative. And greetings to my fellow panelists, and greetings to all those who are participating. I hope above all, you and your family are safe. We are indeed, as Roman, you said, facing a health crisis that we've never experienced before, not in the 75 years of the life of our organization. But as you'll know from your history books, the United Nations was born from an even greater crisis, was born out of the untold suffering of the Second World War that left tens of millions dead, hundreds of millions displaced, with their property destroyed, with their homes lost, and often obliged to start new lives in different countries. Out of that suffering came the creation, the birth of an organization that encapsulated the hopes of those who'd suffered so much, the hopes for a future of greater social justice, the hopes for a future of security, not through arms, but security through international dialogue and international treaties, the hope for the realization and protection of human rights and of dignity of everyone, everywhere. And I think today the question is, out of this crisis will come. Will we come out of this crisis stronger? Will we come out of this crisis more sensible, more wise, with greater international solidarity, with greater international cooperation? with a better realization that we are all global citizens as well as nationals of this or that country, that we only have one planet? Or will we come out of this more divided, more isolationist, more inward-looking, with greater distrust between one another? And I think that's an open question, and I think it's particularly important for young people everywhere to weigh in, not just to leave it to senior leaders who often inevitably think in very short-term, narrow horizons. I think it's tremendously important that young people weigh in with their views on what the priority should be, on how important or not international cooperation is. And our initiative and our 1-minute survey, which is very easily accessible online, is a way of making your voices known. So please do that. This initiative of trying to gather voices across the world that set out what people see as the priorities for the future, the priorities for our globe, and what people see as the biggest threats to those priorities, as the biggest threats to the world they want, and what that means for international cooperation. This initiative was conceived of before COVID. I believe COVID has made it more urgent. Even then, the Secretary General had a strong sense that the world was living a very dangerous contradiction between, on the one hand, a growing number of international threats, and on the other hand, a reduction and a turning away from the methodology of international cooperation, a turning away from the institutions that were set up to manage global threats. So, threats like climate change, like growing inequality, like persistent conflict, the impact of new technology, these are threats that no country on their own can deal with, but where we need international cooperation. And yet, we have, in many ways, weakened the spirit which underlines international cooperation. But the aim of our initiative is really to go back to we the peoples, especially young people, and use their aspirations, their fears, their hopes, to try and revive international cooperation. And we want to do that because international cooperation is not an end in itself. The international cooperation is a methodology to overcome truly international problems. And one of the biggest challenges, Roman, as you alluded, is digital. There's no question that digitalization has brought massive benefits. If we can still have this meeting despite a lockdown, this is the first time in history that we faced a pandemic with the means to continue working, to continue connected with our friends, to continue studying, to continue close to our families, even when they're physically removed from us. We can continue thanks to digital. That's never happened before. And so it's brought untold advantages. There's no question of that. Having said that, it still raises many questions. The digitalization of the world, with all those advantages, overall, will it lead us more equal or less equal? Will it fuel inequality and access to development, or will it only do that for part of humanity? There's no question that the digital divide after COVID is going to be even bigger, because half the world that is digitally connected will have been able to continue working, continuing studying, while those who are in lockdown without digital connection won't be able to. So they'll be left even further behind. So at least in the immediate impact, while digital will be tremendously beneficial for half the globe, it is going to create greater inequality on a global scale in the short term. Will digital leave us more secure or less secure? Connectivity has increased, but cyber attacks have created a whole new domain for violence and warfare, and cyber security incidents have increased at an even greater speed than connectivity. And cyber vulnerabilities, child abuse online has increased at a greater speed than the speed of increased connectivity. Will we come out of in a digital world, will we be safer and more secure or less? I don't think we know that yet. And what about our human rights? Will our human rights be strengthened through the digital domain, or will they be weakened? Many believe many say privacy is dead. Thanks to digital, privacy no longer exists. It's exploited, sometimes for political purposes, sometimes for commercial purposes. But again, there's a very big question mark there. I think what all this shows is that we need to steer these technologies. They cannot be just left to the powers of the market to steer themselves. Policymakers at a national level, at a regional level, and at an international level need to come together better to steer these technologies. And these technologies, by definition, do not recognize borders. These technologies collapse distance. This meeting is an illustration for that. We're thousands of kilometers apart, and yet we're all in the same digital room. And that's magic. And it points toward the need for greater international policy to steer technologies, to ensure that in managing these technologies, by adhering to a global set of guidelines, a global set of principles, we maximize the benefits and we curtail the harms. And that is what the Secretary General has been working on. That's what he works on through the Internet Governance Forum, which, Roman, you're a distinguished member of their advisory board. He's worked on it through a high-level panel, which was an international panel of very high-level experts, co-led by Jack Ma and Melinda Gates, that made recommendations on how to improve digital cooperation. And now in follow-up, he, in May, will release a roadmap on how we move forward to better manage our digital world in order to reap the benefits and contain the harms. And we hope very much this will impact younger people more than anyone else. Younger people, as is often said, are native of the digital world, but you need to also speak up and help us work better together across generations, across professional silos, and across borders to make sure that we make most of the digital world a world where digitalization has been greatly accelerated by COVID, and we need to make sure that as digitalization really takes over from the analog world, it brings greater benefits to all, it's affordable for all, it's safe for all. And that will take a concerted effort, and we believe, the Secretary General believes, the United Nations can play a useful role together with other stakeholders, in particular youth, to make that happen. So please join us in that effort. And please also make your voices heard through our UN85 initiative to make sure that we come out of this terrible crisis more together, with greater solidarity, and working better across generations, across borders, to make sure that we build a better world, not just for you, but for those who come after you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Fabrizio. For those who has just joined our stream, this was the introductory message by His Excellency Under-Secretary General and Special Advisor on UN 75 preparations, Fabrizio Hochschild. And I'm very pleased to welcome all those who just connected. And again, remind that this is the Global Governance in the Digital Age discussion as a part of tomorrow's virtual event, Digital COVID Convo, hashtag, conducted by the UN 75, UN Youth Envoy, and UN MGCY. Our today's discussion is organized by the Friends for Leadership International Network for Young Leaders and Entrepreneurs, as well as Rose Congress Foundation and TV Bricks, from which studio we are now connecting my message from Moscow. So, right now, let me ask our next speaker, Teresa Astolfi, a politician from Spain, to share her vision on the situation in Spain and how it will influence the COVID pandemic, how it will influence the global governance on different levels. Please, Teresa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, dear Roman, and thank you, dear Friends for Leadership. It's a pleasure for me to be here in this debate. Thank you so much, Under General Secretary for the United Nations, to be with us. Last time that we were together was in the World Economic Forum, and today we are here again, back together, because we are facing a new global challenge, the pandemic of the COVID-19. I'm from Spain, and in my country we are suffering so much the consequences of this virus. We have already more than 20,000 people who have lost their lives. And the government is acting behind the virus. Or health people, the people from the health system, is going to the battle without enough weapons. We need more masks, we need more tests, and we need more technology in order to overcome this situation. But the spirit of the Spanish people, the spirit of the nation, it's amazing, because we are demonstrating so much courage and determination, and I hope that we will overcome this crisis as soon as possible. I think globalization is already here. We have seen the effects during the 21st century with the terrorist attacks, with the economic crisis, with new digital era, with the climate change, and now with a new virus which was born in Wuhan, China, like 10,000 kilometers away from my country, is the biggest threat. And I think to overcome this situation, of course, we need to act at national level. I think we need determination at national level, but of course we are also talking about a global challenge. So I think we need global cooperation in order to tackle this pandemic. In this context, as an European, I think we should reinforce European integration. We must act with one voice, not with 27. We have already seen the effects when we have another crisis, like the crisis of the euro, that we are going forward when we are together. And at international level, I think the first thing that we have to tackle in order to go forward together is to say our priority must be health, to save lives. Then to tackle the economic and social crisis, because this is a black swan in terms of the Nassim Taleb economies, something that we have never lived before, and something that is changing our life at every level. And at the third point, I think we should reinforce our global cooperation with democracy and freedom, with transparency and not propaganda. I think, dear friends for leadership, we are all of us in the same boat, and we need to find solutions together. That's why we are here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Teresa. And this was indeed very important what you just said. And I believe that we need to have a voice of digital people, of those who are everyday living and working in the technologies, who are creating new solutions for all of us to use. And I believe it's very important that we proceed with Gerardo Trevino, CEO and founder of Paybook. Gerardo, can you please share with us what you've been doing throughout this pandemic? What is your vision for the next future? And just let us know which projects you as Friends for Leadership member can implement to help our society in this transition period. Please, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So my name is Gerardo Trevino. I'm an activist. I've been as an activist of my mission in life is to rebuild trust in the planet through financial transparency. And it's been over a couple of years since I've been with this mission. Everything started when we started delivering. I founded a company for financial automation technologies, and we wanted to really deliver something good for the planet in that area. So we decided to create a set of platforms and technologies to promote trust around them. Teresa, if you can mute it, that would be great. Thank you. So, and I'm sorry about that. So anyway, so what we did is around this technology is something that our goals and mission around trust and transparency. We've been seeing that COVID has been bringing a lot of unity in the world by a same problem, etc. But so now than ever, we need trust. If we think about it, it's like there's so many opportunities for a lot of nonprofit organizations and governments to make some acts of to deliver some benefits and some hope to the society and the communities. And the sad thing is that we've been lacking of trust during the last years. If we think about like the way we've been doing things, like how technology can help us out in order to deliver and promote this trust. But it's not only about technology, it's go beyond that when we talk about, because what we believe is that technology is just one single part of how, with the proper technology to deliver this level of trust, but it's about the values. What we've been seeing here is like, if you compare an entrepreneur in a company with the governments of the nonprofits or political campaigns, as an entrepreneur, what you do is in order to gain trust, you create your products and you put all your effort in order to deliver these products. And but the customer always have the ability to test the products, to really to get that service and to rate that service. With the governments and nonprofits, etc., it's more complicated because there's always a black curtain. People don't see exactly how everything is being executed. So in this there is a, you mute it, please. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, I get very distracted with that. So the way it's yes, yeah. So the way it's been when we compare the as an entrepreneur with the governments and nonprofits is always have a black curtain. With that black curtain, it's very complicated in order to see how is the execution out there. So in this case, what we build, it's a platform, and this is something that we've been working so hard. It's a platform that basically enables any organization out there to deliver transparency by publishing finances. So what we believe is that right now, we've been seeing a lot of cases of very bad corruption and fraud around COVID. And it's super sad to see how many organizations are still thinking about to make money and take advantage of this problematic in the world instead of just delivering something beneficial or something with positive impact. So with that, the only way that we've been thinking over these years that we can provide our 2 cents by tackling corruption and fraud, and especially in these days that we need a lot of trust, is by we deliver a technology that basically pulls all the data directly from the source, and by publishing data from sources without being manipulated before. The transparency that we know today, it's about publishing reports that those reports were manipulated by grabbing information from banks and then accounting technologies and then publishing a report and saying, hey, we're doing this. So we are trying to evolve that level of transparency that governments, organizations, political campaigns, and every public organization out there that needs to deliver that level of transparency to the society. We've been trying to build this, we build a technology that basically what it does is grabs all this information and publish it in real time. So just to give a quick example is like a nonprofit can just come to our technology, connect to their bank accounts, to all their source of the money. We enable them so they can raise funds in a very simple way. People that are donating immediately receive their tax deduction receipt, but also they can see exactly the transaction online, and they can trace how their organization is using their resources. With this, basically, what we believe is that this delivers a certain level of transparency in order for those truthful organizations can really deliver that impact that they're looking for. And the society can start trusting more and helping more. Governments are focused also on taxes. It works like a business. It would be extremely interesting that it's not only the governments making mechanisms about getting our taxes in a proper way. But it could be very interesting to see how the governments are delivering the tools to the society in order to deliver trust by me paying my taxes and seeing exactly how my contribution is being used from the moment that I pay it, right? So this is kind of technologies that we build up around financial automation. We really believe that directing them in these specific initiatives will deliver a lot of transparency, and the transparency is going to deliver the trust. And once that we have that, it's going to deliver transformation in the planet, and we will be more efficient to tackle any kind of problematic like the one that we have right now, sadly, like the COVID-19 or any other kind of problems that we already had even before this pandemic. So I mean, that's pretty much the way we think. In order to show the level of contribution with Friends and Leadership, for Leadership, we want to start our own campaign in our own technology, the way we're preaching it and promoting it and spreading it right now. We want to deliver a campaign by the end of the month where we're going to start helping different causes in the world by making it fully transparent. So we will need your support. We need your work to be spread around this initiative. And so, yeah, pretty much that's how we think.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gerardo. And it's a very amazing thing that you mentioned. And let's have an online agreement that we continue with the proposed campaign. Dear friends who just joined us, you can also see on our YouTube channel our Friends for Leadership campaign called Friends COVID-19 Support, when every day we capture video from different corners of the world and let you know what is the situation in our communities, what do we do personally and as Friends for Leadership to help those in need. So please stay in touch with us and send us your videos and what do you do. And of course join the new campaign which Gerardo just mentioned. So talking about our communities and what's happening on the ground right now and what is the vision of youth peace activists and those humanitarian guys who are working every day to help those in need, I would love to give the floor to Sharifa from Malaysia. Can you please tell us what is your vision of social entrepreneur? What's next? How do you see the engagement of young people in these changing realities? Please, the floor is yours. Sharifa, can you hear us? So I hope that Sharifa can hear us and will be able to react in 5 seconds. Otherwise, I will switch on to the next speaker. We don't hear you, Sharifa. Okay. Can you say something now? Okay, while Sharifa is getting prepared, please go ahead. We now hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello. Can I continue?
Please.
Hi, I'm Sharifah Asia. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. Just go on.
Okay, can you hear me, Roman? Rizal from Malaysia. I'm here representing
Sharifa, I'm afraid we cannot hear you. I would like now to proceed to our next speaker, Rodrigo, while Sharifa can reconnect. Can we please, Rodrigo, have you started with your message? How do you see, as also a very well-known international
social
youth
entrepreneurs
activist?
are important stakeholders in this.
I kindly ask Sharifa to restart her audio, and my colleagues from TV Bricks to put the mute button, please, and we can go ahead with
Organizations
Rodrigo.
strengthen the virtual engagement with local, national, and regional, even in ecosystems. We need each country.
Rodrigo, can you hear us?
Yes.
Please, go on.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for offering me this opportunity. It's really a big pleasure to be among all of you, different and distinguished people from all around the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is watching us. I'm Rodrigo from Brazil. I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm the founder of an NGO called Global Attitude Institute, and I'm also an advisor to the National Youth Council in Brazil, which tackles public policies related to the youth sphere. What I would like to point out here is really, in my perspective, the greater importance of multilateralism. I think COVID-19 and the pandemic that we are going through, as mentioned by the Undersecretary, will leave us with two options. Either great solidarity and cooperation among nations, or in a place where trust will have to rebuild from the bottom up. And this is something that we are not looking. What I believe is that we should strengthen multilateral organism. We must strengthen multilateral cooperation. We have to look and understand that globalization and interdependence connect all of us as society, but also as countries, that we need to cooperate, because the problems nowadays, they are transactional. They happen in one country. They started in China, but as Teresa from Spain just pointed out, the crisis in Spain is one of the greatest that the world is facing at the moment. The population is isolated. We are having public health systems having to really understand if they will tackle and will be able to deal with the number of intensive care beds that this pandemic will have and will present to us in the upcoming months. So again, the transactional nature of what we have nowadays is something that, in my view, it must and it demands stronger cooperation from not just international organizations, but also from a whole new perspective, how we can tackle, for example, the Africa issue with COVID that is in the early weeks at the moment, right? We will have the G20, for example, and other multilateral organisms helping and assisting the pandemic in Africa, or perhaps in regions, in impoverished areas in the sub-Saharan continent, or India, or Latin America. So I pledge, and again, I put as a necessity for us to coordinate help and assistance to countries. And I hope this happens in the upcoming weeks, we are able as human beings, as a global society, to discover the vaccination for the COVID-19 virus. And when that happens, we will have to have a global perspective in how cooperation and how we will be able to share the solutions to countries that perhaps are not able to afford or not are able to tackle in a very developed way the issues and the drawbacks that the economic recession will bring up in terms of the economics in the world. So again, I think BRICS, G20 are mechanisms that we can use and that governments should be very aware to build trust and to cooperate among themselves to really potentialize the solutions and the work that we can present all around the world. This is a second point I would like to tackle is really the importance of the cooperation between the private sector and governments. We are seeing that quite strongly here in Brazil. We've seen companies really being able to cooperate and to work hand in hand with the governments to really find strong solutions and durable solutions to what we will face in the upcoming months. In my view, we are just in the beginning of something that it will unfold in various ways in countries that we don't really expect what will be happening. Global governance is a tool for further solidarity, for strengthening relationship, not just economic, but political. And the digital era is really what we have in terms of tools, which brings downsides and upsides. But the upsides is what we need to focus and what we really need to trust in times of doubt and the upcoming recession that will be all of us facing in the next months. I think, again, multilateralism is king when we deal with global issues. And this is something that we have a renovated and a renewed perspective in terms how countries will cooperate and will find mutual solutions to resolve global issues. Again, as the UN says, we should leave no one behind. And this is a perspective that we really believe to put forward and to advance, not just in Brazil, but as a community of countries and a community of international organizations. Thank you. Thanks again for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Rodrigo. We know each other from exactly the youth levels of engagement in BRICS, which Russia is presiding this year, or G20. And throughout all these years, with several of these speakers and other young people, we were thinking about how we can contribute to make the world a better place, how we, through our everyday life, can be committed to something good, to something global. And that's why we established the Friends for Leadership Network. And that's why we have people from more than 60 countries who are joining us every day. And please, you also join and continue our efforts on sharing the best working solutions. We're here to share those practical-oriented projects which are already in place and which can serve better to the communities which are in need. Please, right now, let's try to again listen to Sharifa. I hope that Sharifa hears me now. Please, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Roman. I'm Sharifa Noriza from Malaysia. I'm here representing social entrepreneurs as well. And I would like to share my views on 3 key areas. The first one is engagement. I think young professionals and social entrepreneurs are very important stakeholders in global governance, especially in this digital age. With the new normal that many people will face later on, young professionals often serve as bridge between companies and also organizations. And with the importance of virtual engagement with the local, national, regional, and also even international communities. Now is the time for more than ever the young professionals' expertise can explore innovation with the support of their senior professionals peers as well. So what can I say here is let's invent and reinvent something new with the help of technology at our fingertips. Realizing the importance of international cooperation, realizing the symbiosis and ecosystem, we need each other to get the future that we want. We need to realize that as individuals, we cannot possibly good at everything, right? So this is where social entrepreneurs in particular come in. We can make the best use of our digitalization skills by helping building a social economy with lower and middle income groups to especially bridge the urban-rural divide. For example, here in Malaysia, we have the Grab apps, the Food Panda apps, where now during the pandemic, people need to stay at home, but we need to eat. We need food, so we can offer the local people here with the low and also middle income groups to actually have better jobs during this pandemic. And this is involved the informal sectors as well. But where else does innovation come in here? Whilst in the midst of a pandemic, Malaysians also have utilized local people's energy and also technology to provide PPEs for the frontliners in the hospitals, for example. Previously, very few people know how to produce such equipments, for example, the gowns that are being used by the doctors, for example. So because of the lack of supply to our country, so what we do is we learn how to produce such equipment through online knowledge sharing and between the social entrepreneurs, between the social young technology professionals, we were able to massively produce our own PPEs and now even locally produce testing kits that can monitor the results of COVID-19 in a shorter time compared to the earlier movement control order in Malaysia. The second point is about accessibility. Okay, young professionals and young social entrepreneurs need to collaborate more closely in order to reduce the gaps in equality in many levels. For example, in Malaysia, many educators now struggle to update themselves with the digital environment. They need to conduct classes using the Google Classroom. In fact, Malaysia is now ranked as the 4th largest user of Google Classroom. But what about the vulnerable groups in remote areas who do not have the accessibility to this digital technology and internet? So here, social entrepreneurs need to get thinking and innovating platforms that can help them actually using other channels. For example, in Malaysia, previously we used to have an education TV channel, which I think need to be bring back and also to be used as the mass media once again and become very relevant during this crisis to ensure that nobody will truly left behind. And the third point, the last point from me is about the diversity and also inclusivity. Okay, in the global space, we always talk about no one and no place should be left behind, right? So this comes with the recognition of the existence of refugees in our peripheries. And especially in ASEAN region, in the Southeast Asia, we share many borders with each other and many people actually migrate for work and maybe even illegally work if they are stateless. So another question for social entrepreneurs is during this crisis such as this, how can business come together to work and also to apply to the people who are most fragile? Okay, I personally believe that humanity must always win. We choose community work, providing food packs for the people who are in need. I cannot choose whether they are citizen of Malaysia or non-citizen, because we cannot class people according to ethnicity, genders, classes, or even religion, and also another region to help people. So this is the thing that social entrepreneurs must help, the humility and to build trust with the people. And in the end, I would like to talk about capacity building. Everything will start with capacity building. So I think this is exactly why technology transfer and knowledge transfer between private and also public sector, urban and rural areas across all identities. We from International Youth Centre Malaysia and also ASEAN Youth Network supports what the Friends for Leadership do, the Friends for Leadership campaign toward this. We hope that the UN also can support this important nexus of social entrepreneurship, where business for doing good, which begin and persist with us, the young professionals. And we need to collaborate and cooperate together. Beyond the digital age, good and sustainable global governance must always go back to the basics of leaving no one behind. So I think that's all from me, Roman. What do you start?
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunities.
Thank you so much, Sharifa. It was very important that we still used all our digital capacities to bring you back and let your message be heard by our watchers on YouTube. So thank you so much for this. And now we have time for Khaled Yunver, who will tell us his perspective, as he is the scholar, PhD in political science, economist, and we actually met on the sidelines of the Internet Governance Forum of the UN, and Khaled is also part of the Think 20 community. So I believe it will be a very interesting outline, and Khaled will summarize the vision of global governance, of what changed and what will be next. Khaled, please, 5 minutes is yours before we switch to Q&A session.
So, hello everybody, my name is Khaled, and thank you for inviting me to share my ideas about the current crisis and its implications and how the global human nature can evolve and about fundamental future scenarios. Coming back to your first question, Higher Excellency, Mr. Hochschild, yes, my family is safe, God thanks, and I hope that the future of them will also be safe. When it comes to global governance, which is a topic of our conversation right now, I think that we right now have to think about global culture. So what and in which way our culture is changing right now. And starting from the point of view that culture is composed not only of about entertainment and the individual culture, but also the societal culture like economics, like education, like healthcare systems, at the same time, religious culture. For me, the main question is how governance can be defined as a balance between different interests and potential rising conflicts, such as crisis management. And digital cooperation is a mandatory aspect of all that issues. And allow me please for that, but I think it's a shame for the human society at all that only half of the world population is connected right now to the internet. And I do know that the United Nations, together with the ITU and also corporations, are putting a lot of efforts to close this digital gap. But I think the world population development is growing so fast that we cannot catch up with all those technologies needed to close this gap. Although everybody has right now a cell phone or a mobile phone, I think digital inclusion is the first mandatory thing we need to overcome, that global governance in the digital age can succeed. And I will give you a technical term, 5G or broadband connections. I think we need to really fastly need pace in the connection of people all over the world. That's also very closely linked to the high-level conversation on digital cooperation, which you also mentioned with Melinda Gates and Jack Ma, leaving no one behind. And I do think that the humanity is system theoretically spoken evolving to kind of a global superorganism, which is a form of an intelligent human technology system equipped with a so-called digital nervous system. And right now it is the question of nature of this global superorganism, humanity, as a whole opens up new starting points to explore some cultural challenges. And what are these cultural challenges fundamentally? First, creating a digital inclusive economy. That also means financial inclusion. By the way, at the same time, governments are right now thinking, a lot of governments, and China has also released this central bank digital currencies. What is the monetary basis of a future and financial inclusion into all kinds of social systems like healthcare systems? The second challenge is how we work and live. This is also fundamentally changing because right now we are doing this conversation online, and last time we also met in Davos, but from my point of view, very personal, the thing is an architecture for global governance. For me, the main question is also, what is the role of the United Nations in its 75th anniversary? As a conveyor, putting place for coming people from different backgrounds together, setting standards. That's what you do at the United Nations level, also with the ITU. But the most important thing, and final closing my remarks, is multi-stakeholder or bilateral initiatives. What on specific issues can be achieved through multilateral cooperation and what needs to be done on a bilateral cooperation. That's also on the global governance perspective, how we can balance between decentralized politics, decentralized.
Right now we have a little bit of time, and for our active online engagement with our audience, we have our friend who is our Digital Affairs Officer, Rishabh Sethi from India, from Indian Center for Promotion of International Initiatives, his organization. Rishabh, did you select any questions which came online? And please, we have time for, let's say, 2-3 questions, and say who is the author of the question and who is potential speaker to answer. Please, everyone, mute your microphones while you're not speaking. And Rishabh, the floor is yours.
Hello, hi, good evening. I'm Rishabh Sethi from India, the Digital Affairs Head of the Friend for Leadership Group. And good morning to Mr. His Excellency Fabrizio. Thanks a lot for joining us and giving your important time to us for our first online meetup. So as we see that we have a lot of online viewers from across the globe, which are right now. The first question I would like to ask, how can new generation save an environmental success that we gained during the Corona time? Can you hear the question?
For whom is this question?
So, this question is with Rodrigo from Brazil.
Dab, could you repeat the question, please?
I'm saying, how can new generation save an environmental success that we gained during the Corona time? This is a question from our viewer from Germany.
Well, I think there is a lot of youth mechanisms, again, in terms of governance, right? I think since the last decade, multilateralism, international organizations are putting more attention in the present, right? So I think there is several mechanisms that we can mention here. For example, the Youth BRICS Summit, which is traditionally happening since 2016. when they organized the participation of young people, right, from across different sectors and from all BRICS countries, where they had the chance to really share their perspectives and their views in terms how public policy should influence youth in their respective countries. The G20 also has several mechanisms, what we call the engagement groups, tackling the perspective and the viewpoints, for example, from academics, from NGOs, from women, from young people. And all these different perspectives are brought up to the chief of states meetings when the G20 really gathers to get a consensus on the priorities. These engagement groups are opportunities for various sectors of society to share their perspectives. The UN also is doing a great job in terms of really involving youth to the youth envoy of the secretary, with the ECOSOC Youth Forum, with forums on the sidelines of big gatherings around the world, just dedicated for sharing youth perspectives and youth initiatives that are being successful, not just about social entrepreneurship, but about various topics such the SDGs, Agenda 2030, smart cities, health, gender equality, really, really contemporary topics for young people nowadays in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rodrigo. And Rishabh, do we have other questions? We have time for only one question.
Okay. So the next question is to Simona. Sorry. The next question is with Khalid. Khalid, the question is a global solution to protect us against world economic crisis during corona time possible at all?
Well, thank you. As High Excellence Fabrizio Hochschild announced, there is no any comparable aspect or comparable rising question, a problem like this. The world has never been interconnected in such way in different areas, and the economic basis of our culture is in a really, really deep crisis right now. And different cultures and different nations tackle with that in a different way. I mean, the United Nations are pushing a lot of money into this whole system, about 4 billion in trillion US dollars. And the patent solution, how we can fix the economics right now. Different states are dealing with different solutions for that. But I can hope about that is that we can learn. And there are also positive things. If you look to sustainable development, which is economics, ecological and social development. So the ecology is right now doing really, really great. We are compensating a lot of CO2 emissions. And this could be also a very good chance to transform our economics into a more sustainable economics with more carbon usage and recycling processes and having. But I don't think there is any solution right now for having a global job loss. And we will see a lot of differences and changes in our economic structure. But this is also a crisis, at the same time a challenge and the chance to transform our whole economic infrastructure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dear speakers, dear audience, Your Excellency Fabrizio Hochschild, thank you so much for your participation. This was our first time experience, but we promise that this is not the last one. and we will continue to gather interest in Friends for Leadership together with the United Nations and other great partners for continuing our online conversations. So right now, let me thank you all. Let me thank Friends for Leadership, the United Nations, the Rose Congress Foundation, TV Bricks, and all people who found time, who stayed with us for the whole duration of our broadcast. Follow our hashtags, and please do not forget to join tomorrow the main event, which you can find by the hashtag Digital COVID Convo, held under the auspices of the UN 75, UN Youth Envoy, and UNMGCY. Thank you so much again. Please take care and stay safe. And thank you so much, everyone, once again for your participation. Goodbye.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you. До свидания.
Thank you guys. Be safe, all of you.
Спасибо. Мы завершаем трансляцию.